There we go. And thank you everybody for joining today. My name is Ben Taylor from the CVA. As I've mentioned, the call is being recorded. Today's session is part of the One Croydon training programme. The training programme is open for all professionals who are working across the borough. And you can find more details of the sessions that we have on the calendar that's available on the CVA website. So do please check that out. There's lots of different events that we do on a really regular basis. You know, there's lots that you can gain from there, and lots that we try and do and support across that one Croydon training program. What we would ask is these sessions are always better when they are more interactive, so please feel free to ask questions. We have got several presentations that are going to be going on today. We appreciate that sometimes cameras can slow down people's connection, but if you have got the availability to keep your cameras on, it's always better as again, the speakers can feel that there's more interaction for people who are on there. We are, I can see that actually most people have done it already. If you are signing in from an organisation, if you could also add your name either into the chat or just change it on the screen. That way we can keep a note of everybody that's here and mark that down from a registration perspective. So with that in mind, we want to get straight into the first section. So the first talk we're having today is going to be from Rachel Abraham from Croydon Council. I did see Rachel logged in, although she's not in my screen now.
I'm here. Hello.
Is Rachel? Hello. Excellent. And Rachel, I think you've got a presentation that you're going to share. Is that right?
Yes, so I've got some slides to share around the support that's available to rough sleepers within Croydon. I'm the rough sleeping coordinator for Croydon Council.
Brilliant. Over to you.
Thank you. Let me just bring up the slides. Can you see those slides or?
Yeah.
No.
Can you see them now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just, sorry, I've got a toolbar at the top here that I'm just trying to.
Yes. But then, yeah.
There we go. So thank you everybody for coming today. I'm the rough sleeping coordinator, as I said. This presentation, I'm just going to sort of talk through some of the general trends around rough sleeping across London and within Croydon, and share some details around the demographics and support needs that we're observing within Croydon over the last year. The data's come from a database called CHAIN, which is the Combined Homelessness and Information Network database. I'll also be covering some details about the Homeless Reduction Act and the local authority overview, and also some of the Commission's services and other support services available to rough sleepers. Hopefully I can finish it off with a case study which shows how multidisciplinary work supports rough sleeping within the Croydon Borough. And then obviously open to questions afterwards. So let's have a look at the CHAIN data for Croydon. So in 2022, 2023, we've got some headline findings. So the rough sleeping team in the council work with verified rough sleepers. These are people who are seen by our commissioned outreach service. Throughout 2022, we've found that there were 373 rough sleepers supported by the outreach team within Croydon. Across London in general, the CHAIN figure suggests that there's a 21% increase in rough sleeping across London. Of those 373, 270, we have three types of rough sleeper, verified rough sleeper. We have people called flow who are new to the streets, people who are stock, who stay on the streets and are very complex to engage with. And we also have returners, those people who've been in accommodation for some reason the accommodation is broken down. So of the 373, 273 people were new to rough sleeping in the street, new to rough sleeping in Croydon. Of those, 76% were supported to attend something called the No Second Night Out. No Second Night Out is a service that runs across Pan London, and outreach can refer individuals into. They provide support around ID, benefits, access to bank accounts, immigration support, drug and alcohol and mental health support, as well as offering sort of support with their accommodation. So you can see that there are multiple needs for sort of rough sleepers within Croydon. Although there hasn't been an increase in rough sleeping, the trend in general is on the downward, is going down. Okay, so this is just some information on the demographics and the support needs. You'll find that majority of verified rough sleepers are male, 81%, with 19 being female. The reason that you see more males rough sleeping is that women often feel unsafe and can sometimes walk around at night, or they might stay in unsuitable environments. As a result, there is going to be a women's census scheduled in September to identify where these rough sleeping women are engaging. So it would be good if support partners could take part, and I can share details of that. The age of people seeing rough sleeping, as you can see, we don't have many in the older category or the younger category, and there are no under 18s. That's because Croydon Council commissions services for care leavers and prevents homelessness sort of via separate commission services for the under 18s. So when our outreach service goes out to engage with the client, they'll complete an assessment, and this will be logged onto the chain database. As you can see, the majority of support needs that seem to be being experienced within Croydon is 71% people are experiencing some form of mental health support need. This is closely followed by 43% of individuals who've got mental health or substance misuse or combined support need. We often call this dual diagnosis. Individuals may start to use substances to control their mood and mental health, and this can result in a sort of a dual diagnosis where the individual is trying to support their mental health but has fallen into substance misuse. So it's a bit of a cycle. The top reasons for homelessness within Croydon, relationship breakdown was the top reason. People were being asked to leave the accommodation that they were staying in. Many rough sleepers will have been sofa surfing or in overcrowded accommodation before they arrive on the street. If individuals have run out of a safe space or the goodwill of people, sofa surfing is often known as hidden homelessness. And the second highest reason for loss of accommodation recorded on chain was that people were getting into arrears due to loss of employment, which ultimately leads to eviction from private rented accommodation. So they may not have, mental health or support needs around substance misuse. When the outreach team engage with a verified rough sleeper, we'll use the Homeless Reduction Act in 2018. This is done by, they'll complete a homelessness application via Croydon Council website, but certain public organisations like hospitals, probation, the police also have a duty to refer into the council to provide support. Now, there isn't a duty to secure accommodation for all homeless people, but we do have a duty to accommodate those with the most vulnerable. When the initial homelessness application is made, they will be presented to Croydon Council, and Croydon will interview them to identify their eligibility, if they have a local connection, if they've been in Croydon 3 out of the 5 last years, or 6 out of the last 12 months, and in priority need. There are 2 duties once we have interviewed the client, we've assessed the client, we've got the relief duty, and that's to provide immediate assistance to individuals who are already homeless or threatened with homelessness. It's known as the relief duty, and the local authority makes reasonable steps to help people secure suitable accommodation, and this lasts for a period of 56 days. The prevention duty requires local authorities to intervene earlier and take proactive measures to prevent homelessness. So the prevention duty is usually comes into action prior to the relief duty. So people will be, if they're at risk of homelessness, there will be prevention. And then most of the rough sleepers that we see have the relief duty. The aim of the duties is to ensure that they take a proactive and preventative approach to addressing rough homelessness. So they'll provide support and assistance and ensure that they produce a personalised housing plan, which is an agreement really between the local authority and the individual as to how they can support clients to resolve their homelessness. So as I said, I'm a rough sleeping coordinator and I'm part of the commissioning services for the rough sleeping team.
Sharing the form. Sharing the form. Go on, quick.
Sorry, for the rough sleeping team. So we receive funding via the Rough Sleeping Initiative and the council. So I've produced this sort of infographic of a jigsaw really, because resolving somebody's homelessness requires sort of lots of different support networks. It can't just be the outreach team who is supporting with the resolution of the homelessness. Croydon Council commissions a local outreach service. We have a specialist worker on that outreach service for drug and substance misuse. They will go out on shift and identify verified rough sleepers. Rough sleepers are people who tend to be lying down or close to their sleep site. Once the client has been verified, there will be a non-judgmental assessment around their support needs. In addition, during cold weather, we have something called the Severe Weather Emergency Protocol. And just recently, we have the SWEP, it's known as SWEP. During cold weather, SWEP is identified when the temperature falls below 0 degrees. And council has a duty to provide some accommodation to the vulnerable rough sleepers, regardless of their immigration status or local connection. There is also a Pan London service that outreach services can refer into, which is called the Overflow SWEP, which also provides accommodation for individuals who are rough sleeping. This year, we've also had heat SWEP. We've had heat SWEP. This is because of the high temperatures during the summer. It's usually triggered. There's several sort of stages that can trigger the heat SWEPs in a red, amber, and green. This allows us to go out and provide sun cream and hot water to individuals. It's usually when the temperature reaches about 30 degrees. So we had one recently in June. In addition to the outreach work that's undertaken, we also have the Somewhere Safe to Stay hub. This is 15 beds that our verified rough sleepers can access via the outreach service and can be referred in. It provides 28 days support in order to work to identify the client's needs and sort of their housing requirements. The advantage of the Somewhere Safe to Stay is that it doesn't necessarily require people to have priority need, but it will work with people to get into private rented or into supported accommodation. That brings me on to the accommodation that is provided via the commissioning team. So we have hostels and supported accommodation. So once we've identified the rough sleeper and they've had their homelessness application, we'll also do a support needs assessment to identify which is the best route for them into accommodation. Supported accommodation is usually provided for people who have support needs around their mental health. There are a variety of different hostels that specialise and supported accommodation that specialises. In addition to that, individuals with lower support needs can get access to private rented accommodation. Currently we have a project with Forward Trust that works with ex-offenders to provide them with accommodation. We also provide it's something called DHP or rent in advance, which will provide a deposit or rent in advance to people who are independent enough to have their own accommodation and sustain their own tenancies. We also have a complex need navigator who links in with the social care team within Croydon Borough. These clients often have Care Act assessment needs, and so this complex needs navigator will advocate for the clients. These clients often have, the tenancies break down due to sort of antisocial behaviour or general care needs. For our most complex clients, we have a Housing First project. Housing First operates on the belief that having a safe and stable place to live in is fundamental right. So regardless of the complexity of the support needs of these clients, they can be referred into Housing First and provided with a key worker. Traditionally, when people are placed in supported accommodation, they're expected to engage with their mental health and engage with their support needs. Housing First works in a different process in the fact that the person is provided with the accommodation and the key worker, and as long as they're maintaining their tenancy, they can actually stay in that property and don't necessarily have to address any support needs, but are encouraged to do that. In addition, we have a number of multidisciplinary team meetings that we run on a monthly basis. We've got task and targeting, where mental health, drug and alcohol, and the probation and family justice centre all attend to discuss those clients that we find most complex and we need support with their rough sleeping to move them away from the street. We also have a Safer Streets meeting, which works to support and identify any associated antisocial behaviour with the rough sleepers. Rough sleeping in and of itself is not an illegal. Is not illegal. Leah, do you have anything to add?
I think you've done really well there, Rachel. I think you've covered everything. No, I think you've given a very comprehensive handover, so all good.
Thank you. In addition, there are other interventions that are commissioned outside Croydon Council. As I've mentioned before, there's no second night out. This is run by St Mungo's. It's an assessment centre for rough sleepers and provides help with housing applications, reconnections to other boroughs, and also, as I said, the fundamentals like ID and benefit applications. We also have the START team, which is an outreach service. It consists of a variety of individuals. So we've got a clinical psychologist, we've got dual diagnosis workers. They work with the rough sleepers to support them around their mental health, engage them with talking therapies, engage them with medication. They continue to work with them whilst they are in emergency accommodation or temporary accommodation. And we've had some very positive outcomes from that team, who also work in conjunction with the drug and alcohol service Change, Grow, Live. They also have an outreach team that will work with people on the street who are rough sleeping. And it will collaboratively work in a multidisciplinary team way to have case conferences around particularly complex clients to see how we can support and resolve their homelessness. In addition, we find that we've got a number of clients who are rough sleeping who've got immigration requirements, either obtaining settled status, asylum claims. Sometimes rough sleepers lose their immigration documentation. So we can refer into the South London Refugee Association. They are qualified immigration advisors, so they'll be able to work out the best way to support clients to resolve their immigration status. In addition, we obviously have the faith sectors and the volunteers. You provide the food banks, there's the well, there's crisis. So it's good to know that, you know, people outside sort of the council are also supporting our rough sleepers. So I'm coming to the end now. I hope I haven't gone too fast. I was just going to give you a sort of a brief overview of a case study for one of our clients in Housing First. The client was 32 years old. She was a victim of violence and assaults, and as a teenager, in her late teens, she started to use substances and was struggling with her mental health. Prior to the incident, she was in school and living with her parents and a younger sibling who had learning needs. The client's mental health suffered from her assault and she started using the drugs. and led to her mother asking her to leave the parental home in her early 20s. She suffers from physical health conditions and which she found hard to manage while sofa surfing and rough sleeping. She managed to be linked in with the Change, Grow, Live and the mental health services, and had a couple of supported accommodation provision. Because of the complexity of her needs and because of the relationship she was in, she lost that accommodation because she wasn't using her bed space, and she was feeling unsafe because she wasn't with her partner, even though there were concerns around the nature of the relationship and domestic abuse. In November 2022, the outreach team engaged with the client and managed to get her a bed space during the SWEP. During the SWEP period, the outreach team referred her to Housing First, and accommodation was secured in a self-contained tenancy away from Croydon town centre. The stability of the new home enabled her to start addressing her DV issues, and she started to become sort of more assertive around her boundaries. She started to call the police, and she actually enforced a restriction order. The client has engaged with several services, as I said, Change, Grow, Live. She's got a mental health care coordinator and the Family Justice Centre. And with the support of Housing First, she's now fully abstinent from substances for nearly 3 months and started to redevelop a relationship with her mother. She's grown more confident. While she's still not there 100%, we can see the progress that she's made by being provided with Housing First. So I mean, this is just sort of proves that the work that we're doing within Croydon to support these vulnerable clients is successful. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, about SWEP. Sorry.
Yeah.
About SWEP, and it is. I thought SWEP meant that in cold conditions, all street rough sleepers should be got into a safe place.
Yes, that's right.
But you used the word, but you said vulnerable sleepers.
Sorry, it is all rough sleepers. Apologies.
Yeah.
It's verified rough sleepers that will be offered the Pan London.
Oh, but they have to have been only if they've been verified. Yeah. I didn't know that.
But the council does have some local bed spaces available for vulnerable clients that we believe should be placed in SWEP.
Is it possible to say how many bed spaces you have in Croydon?
Last year it was about 6.
So hang on.
But we did actually take some back from the Pan London.
So SWEP, you can only get 6 people. Let's say the temperature really plummets, -5.
It's on a case-by-case basis. You know, we work with the verified rough sleepers, so anybody who's verified and the outreach team we're working with can get them into accommodation.
But
sorry, shall I come in there for a sec? Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's a bit complicated. So Simon, what we do, we're not obligated to let's say we're not obligated to guarantee any number of beds. The number of 6 is what we guarantee we can offer locally as part of a kind of protocol. So when SWEP is triggered, because the way that it works is that the GLA put on what's called a Pan London SWEP setup, which is for recent years has been hotel beds and stuff like that. And every council has to kind of say a certain amount of beds which they can guarantee before they access those. For us, it's been 6, but in reality, we use a lot more than that. But that's just the number that we say we're going to guarantee. But in reality, we place a lot more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that means if there's somebody who's recently become homeless but haven't been verified yet, they've got to stay out in the cold at great risk to themselves. I thought this was an emergency where for example, in Canada in the winter, you're not allowed to be street homeless in the middle of the winter because where the temperature drops to -20 or something.
For me to take that, Rachel?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the way that it works, Simon, is when SWEP is called, unfortunately, there's lots of people that use that as an opportunity to suggest that they're sleeping rough, but we can't just place everyone. It's not possible. That we need that the way the system works is that they need to be verified by the street link process. That's they need to be verified, seen, bedded down before they can be considered a rough sleeper. I know that means that if somebody's claiming that they're sleeping rough for the first time on a night of sweat, they'll need to wait for the team to come out to verify them. But then we can place them in sweat after that. But the problem with we have to do it that way, otherwise the system is abused.
So could I ask the procedure for us if we find someone vulnerable, or we believe vulnerable and sleeping rough, the procedure is to call Street Link? That's the only procedure.
So the way that Street Link, sorry Rachel, did you want to take that, or shall I take that?
No.
Give you a little bit of a break. So the procedure for, the way that we would encourage any external partner, if you're concerned about anyone sleeping rough, unless you know for sure that they're already verified and they're already working with our services, always go straight to Street Link, make a Street Link referral, because the way that Street Link is set up is that they'll get a team out. It won't be them. Street Link is just the portal. I don't want to confuse you, but the team that will come out is called Rapid Response, and they will, their sole purpose, if you like, is to verify people and get them into the pathway, as we call it. So that's what we would always recommend Street Link, and they act as a kind of portal.
And how rapid is the response team? What's the reality? Say if we found somebody in an evening that was vulnerable.
We would hope that they'd get out the same night.
But they don't.
They don't.
No, there's no way do they do that. And the other thing is, what do you tell the person? Do you tell the person to stick rooted to the spot for the next 48 hours?
Yes,
any time or day.
We advise clients to do that. We give them a mobile phone and advise them to sit still.
Well, I mean, obviously, I want to be brutally honest. We don't commission the rapid response team. That's a GLA team, GLA commission service. We expect them to come out on the same night if they can. If not, certainly by the second night. It's not something we have any control over. But what I will say is that Street Link referrals are dealt with. We have a very good response time in Croydon, considering how many there are. And yeah, I mean, in terms of, we don't expect them to stay rooted to the spot, like, only when they're bedding down, because, they have to be seen sleeping to be considered a rough sleeper. So, and that rapid response team come out at night, so they don't need to be rooted there in the day.
But
I want to be clear. Can I be clear about, so they've only got to be in one place at night.
They need,
not during the day.
So when you make a Street Link referral, you'll put the sleep site, and that will be the place that the rapid response team will come to look for that individual, and that's where they need that. That's where they need to be, and that's there's not really a great deal more the rapid response team can do other than look in that spot.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of the information that I give to the clients. Do I tell them you must be at your sleep place from, let's say, 9 p.m. till 7? Are there 7 hours that I would tell them to be there for?
Yeah, when they want to sleep, because if they're not seen asleep, then they're not sleep. Then they have to be seen sleeping rough to be verified. So it won't, even if they found them in the day, it would be question marks as to whether they'd be considered a rough sleeper.
Right. So it's part of
Simon's trying to ask is, I think what he's trying to get at is the timing of when the rapid response team might come out.
Yeah.
So, for example, we had a case recently where we were supporting somebody who was rough sleeping, and what seemed to be happening was that the rapid response team kept missing him because he was leaving his sleep spot very early. It seemed that they were coming between, 5 and 7, and that they kept, therefore, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Therefore, he was leaving early. He was leaving about 4:30 a.m. and walking around, so they were missing him. So I think that's what we're getting at. What's the timing? Would you give us the estimate?
Again, Rachel, feel free to jump in, but I don't have. There isn't a specific window, if you like. We just advise people to stay in their sleep site when they go to sleep, and they need, you know, if your client is leaving at 4:30 in the morning, he or she can't be verified as a rough sleeper if they were to come and that person was awake anyway. So, I mean, I'm not going to encourage the individual to sleep longer than they need to if they need to be somewhere else. But I can't give a time. If, say, for example, if the rapid response team were coming at 5:30 in the morning after the individual had left, there's not a great deal we can do about that other than ask the rapid response team to come earlier. If the individual needs to, if they need to be somewhere, if they've got to go somewhere at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, that's going to happen anyway, isn't it? So
I guess
what I'm saying,
can we say that the rapid response team would come out any time between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. for example?
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean that's logically yes, but I don't want to put like a rubber stamp on that because it's not our team. But yeah, logically, yeah, throughout the night and until the morning.
We
Would it be possible to find out what the earliest that they might come is? You know, so whether
the problem with that is that we can't pin them down to anything, and they need to be flexible because they may have one night they may have a great deal of referrals outside of Croydon. I don't know what time they'll get to Croydon. I don't want to like make promises on behalf of another team that we don't commission. Yeah. But I know that sounds a little bit evasive. I don't mean to be, but I don't want to put a figure on it. I think the best thing to do is to, if you're concerned about someone sleeping rough, encourage them to be bedded down at a reasonable hour, and if possible, to stay at the sleep site until after 7 a.m. That would be what I would encourage. But I can't. I don't want to. I'm going to
jump in now because we've got 1 more minute left on this section before we go over to an actual live example of the StreetLink app. So, has anyone got any other questions outside of this theme? You know, outside of this the reporting window, they'd like to quickly ask before we wrap up.
Yes, please, if I could. This is Giovanna from Tapworth Road Estate. One of the things that we've found is that with the new initiative of getting a lot of the homeless people out of central Croydon, we've identified that they go to a particular area in West Croydon and bunker down in someone's garden. We have called the Safer Streets and the other teams that you're talking about, but the response that we've got back is that because they're in someone's garden and they're allowed to stay there, that's a safe place, and so that they won't visit. And it's really, really frustrating because just a couple of doors down, there's a homeless hostel. So that seems, this initiative of moving people out of central Croydon, although they're there in the day, has then impacted on local areas. And it's difficult to refer anybody. We've referred 3 people down that road, and we've just been told the same thing. So it's really frustrating. We don't know what to do.
Okay, Kelly. I mean, it's difficult when people are in private property and the site's not accessible for the outreach team to engage with that individual. I think that we would advise that they perhaps find a site that is accessible to the outreach service. I mean, I can pick this up with you, what the referrals are outside, Kelly, and we can just have a review, because it may be that it's rapid response rather than the local outreach team.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask Kelly as well very quickly? You say you spoke to the Safer Streets team. Do you mean like the ASB or ASB team? Because that's Safer Streets is an enforcement-led forum. You're on mute.
Sorry, my volume is very low for some reason. I'm having to use my phone, so I apologise. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so you just made reference to when the person sleeping in somebody's garden by yes. Consent. I'm assuming. You said that you spoke to the Safer Streets team. What do you mean? Do you mean our ASB team? Because the Safer Streets is an enforcement-led forum that the council run. Is that what you meant when you said Safer Streets?
It's like the community police.
Okay. So I mean, so I think there's a little bit. We need a bit of clarity on who you spoke to. But if you're asking the police to come and essentially help somebody rough sleeping, the police will only deal with basically a criminal issue. So police will stay well away from rough sleeping, especially if it's by consent. But even if in a public space, the police won't really interject with rough sleeping because it's obviously not a criminal activity. If it's the ASB team, they will struggle to even come near somebody on private property because that's the issue. That's the consent or decision of the private building owner or the landowner. So I think what I'm kind of hearing you saying is that you're talking about somebody who's staying in a garden by consent. They need help to get off the streets from rough sleeping, and in that sense, I would just I'd use StreetLink rather than any other portal. But like as Rachel said, if they're in somebody's garden, it's not necessarily straightforward for them to gain access. A lot of the outreach teams are not comfortable with going into private property at night, so it does make a lot more sense for that individual to sleep somewhere that's a lot more accessible for the outreach teams than in a private garden.
That's fair enough, but it's a whole group of them and they're engaging in antisocial behaviour, and that's why we've called the police as well.
So
but,
I'm getting
I don't know, maybe just give me the details.
Sorry, I will let you move on as well. Just a quick question, were they there by consent or were they there just unconsentfully?
The person whose property it was somebody that was homeless and then was given the property and maybe just has a kind heart and allowed them to stay in the garden.
They often do.
So I think it's quite a good time to move on to how you'd report through StreetLink then. And the next piece that we've got is actually a demo of StreetLink. And I think we'll try and follow up this session with some of the teams that we've spoken about and actually what their responsibilities are and what can be reported into each of those. So to pass on to the next piece, then it's St Mungo's who are going to do this. I've got Marie Stewart is doing the presentation.
Hi everyone, hiya. So I'm Marie, I'm the service manager for StreetLink, and I'm with Fiona, who is an assessment worker for StreetLink as well. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about StreetLink before, have used StreetLink as well. So we've got a short presentation just to run through, and also thanks Leo for going through StreetLink as well. So yeah, we've got a short presentation and then a chance to answer any questions that you might have after. So I'll just share my screen. If you bear with me 1 second. Can you see this? Okay.
Yeah.
How do I make it bigger?
You might want to send it to presentation mode.
Yeah, does that look all right?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so StreetLink. So StreetLink is a website, app and phone service. So the website and mobile app are nationwide and the phone service is in London. We operate 24/7 every single day of the year. And our aim is to connect people who are rough sleeping with local services, including local authorities or outreach services in their borough to help end their rough sleeping. So we're a really, really busy service. We currently receive about 200 calls a day. And during summer, this tends to be our quietest time. So during winter, during sweat periods, our call volume goes up massively. But we also have a website and app. We are increasingly being used by people rough sleeping themselves. So about maybe 70% of people who get in touch with us at the minute are homeless themselves, facing rough sleeping, or are currently sleeping rough. So StreetLink is only for people who are rough sleeping.
Not gone into slideshow mode.
Oh, has it not? Can you not see it? I'm not sure how to do that.
There's a menu thing at the top saying slideshow.
Yeah.
Or maybe you need to
Slideshow.
maybe you need to share a different screen now because you've gone into that mode.
If you go
This
into
mode, yeah.
home,
There we go.
into view.
There we go.
Yeah. Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Cool. So yeah, so people, StreetLink is for people who are sleeping rough. So we're not for, obviously there are lots of different situations where people are homeless, but we are only a service for people rough sleeping. So obviously rough sleeping is so dangerous, we would never encourage someone to rough sleep to access support or encourage someone to stay in a particular location. It's all up to that person, so it's whatever they feel the most safe doing. We're a 24-hour service, so if someone doesn't feel safe staying at their location, if they can get them back in touch with us, if they change their location, we can update the local outreach team in that borough so that they will be able to find that person as soon as possible. StreetLink is a small team. We're a small team supported by a pool of volunteers. So we have about 20 volunteers at the minute supporting our service, and we're looking to increase that during the winter. So the phone line is very, very busy, and I really appreciate it can take a long time to get through. So that's why using the website and the app tends to be the best way to get in touch if you want to make a referral for someone that you know is currently rough sleeping. And just to go through what we can't do at StreetLink. So StreetLink is not an outreach provider, so we don't go out ourselves. We collect that information across London from where people are rough sleeping, and we pass it on to that local outreach team in that borough. In many boroughs, it will go through to the rapid response team. So in Croydon, we would pass it on to the rapid response team. We say that outreach teams have a target of 1 to 3 nights. In reality, rapid response do go out quicker than that, but we just really want to manage people's expectations. Obviously, it is really dangerous to rough sleep, and people do move around, and it can be difficult to find people. So that's why we say to people that the target time is 1 to 3 nights, so that yeah, we can manage expectations, and people aren't necessarily expecting that someone will be out that same night. We're also not an emergency service, so yeah, we're target time is 1 to 3 nights for outreach teams. StreetLink is not a service for anyone under the age of 18 or families with children. We're just for adults who are rough sleeping. At StreetLink, we don't provide accommodation, so we have no links to accommodation. We are there to connect people who are rough sleeping with local outreach services to provide that ongoing support to end that person's rough sleeping. What we also have is a database of local services across London, and it's really valuable signposting that we offer. So it's encouraging people to make their homeless application if they haven't done so already, and then looking for other services that might be in that person's area. So for example, day centres. So in Croydon, it could be crisis that we're signposting people to. We're looking at food banks or soup kitchens that we might be able to direct someone to get something to eat. And then also additional phone lines and that might be able to help that person. So for housing advice, we'd suggest people to get in touch with shelter, or if someone's under 25, then there's some young people services that we can share with that person. It really depends on that person's situation and will depend on what signposted information we'll pass on. Also, StreetLink, we don't provide a chain number. So a chain number is provided to someone when they're verified by the outreach team. So our job at StreetLink is to pass that information of where someone's rough sleeping on to the local outreach team. So in Croydon, we pass it on to Rapid Response. Rapid Response would then go out and visit that person at their sleeping location. And once verified, if that's the first time they've met someone, then they'll provide a chain number. And then also, as I've mentioned before, so StreetLink is a service for people who are rough sleeping. So we do get lots of calls from people who are faced with rough sleeping, who might be, you know, facing eviction, sofa surfing, walking around at night time, not sure where to bed down. Rough sleeping is so dangerous that we just don't want to encourage anyone to rough sleep. So we would look to do signposting then to services that will be able to support that person without them having to bed down. But obviously, if someone does end up rough sleeping on the street, then we are here 24 hours a day, and we would pass that referral on to the local outreach team. So just on the last slide, Fiona's going to go through how to get the most out of a StreetLink alert.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll talk through what makes a good alert. So what we're looking for is alerts to be accurate, specific and detailed. So the main thing we really need is an exact location of where someone is sleeping overnight. And when you do an alert over the website or through the app, you'll be able to place a pin on the map, which then provides like an exact location, which will then identify the local authority area. So if you place the pin in Croydon, it'll automatically populate that to Croydon. When you place that pin, it is as well as doing that, what we're looking for is to provide like complementary descriptive location details. So there's a little box on when you're making an alert that we're looking for a description of where you've placed that pin. Just for added context, and also when you move that pin, it so easily jumps around. So we want to make sure that where you've put that pin is exactly where that person is sleeping overnight. So we want specific details in that. If someone's outside a shop, like what that shop is called, is the person sleeping outside a number or next to a business? If it's in a park, a description of how you enter the park, really specific location. So if you just put in the pin drop and don't put anything else in there, we will come back and ask for more information because we want to be really sure that this is the right location. And then this will help the outreach team, because obviously people do tuck themselves away sometimes. So we want to give the outreach team as much information as possible to give them the best chance of finding someone. We want also the time that a person is bedded down. So whether that's a time that someone's been seen sleeping at that site, or if you do know what time they get there at night and what time they leave, that's really useful information as well. So it gives the outreach team an idea of a window of time to try and target that person's sleep site. And then, that will increase the chances of them being found. So it's always really good to remember that outreach teams operate overnight. And so you will want to give the outreach team the information of when that person's sleeping overnight in a specific location. And any other information about the description of the person is really good as well. That will help an outreach team identify a person sleeping rough.
Cool, thanks Fiona. So as we mentioned, the best way to get in touch is using the website or the app, but we also do have the phone line. We try and keep the phone line free for people who might not have access to the internet. Best way to get in touch is on the website or the app. And if you have any questions, please let us know and I'll try and stop sharing my screen. Has that done it? Yeah. Yeah, has anyone got any questions?
I just wanted, I hadn't fully grasped this before, so I'm being a bit thick here.
No,
I hadn't realized that there's StreetLink gathers the information. StreetLink itself doesn't send anybody out. They pass the information that we've given to the outreach team, which is an aspect of the council. Is that right?
So in Croydon,
Croydon Council, whatever it is, but it's called the outreach team, and that is called Rapid Response. Is that right? Have I got this right?
So Rapid Response Team is it's a Thames Reach service, and they are the outreach team that initially respond to StreetLink alerts. So you're really right, Simon. So referral comes through to StreetLink, we'll then pass it on to the Rapid Response team, and they will go out and do the initial assessment with that person and verify that they're rough sleeping. Once they've done that, it will then be passed on to the local outreach team in Croydon to do the ongoing casework to end that person's rough sleeping.
I see. So the Rapid Response team does the verification.
Yeah.
The outreach team is the people who do the casework to do it.
Yes.
So it's three things: StreetLink, Rapid Response, outreach team.
Yeah.
Yes, Simon.
The first time I've understood that.
Okay, brilliant. So the local outreach service, the StreetLink will verify, but sometimes people need a little bit more time to engage. That's why we have the local outreach service to support those clients as well.
Yeah, sorry, and can I just be clear? Croydon, we don't commission Rapid Response either. That's the GLA that does that. So we take over, our outreach team takes over at the point of after Rapid Response.
Thank you. I had not understood that either.
So are the outreach team employed by Croydon Council?
The local outreach team
yeah,
are
they're commissioned by us,
commissioned.
yeah.
Mission.
And they take over when somebody's been referred. So when someone's been verified and they haven't been taken to, the rapid response may refer people into what's called no second night out. That's going to get confusing. But if the person rough sleeping in Croydon has been deemed to want to continue there, then that's what, at that point, that's when rapid response will refer to our local outreach service, as known as Croydon Reach. And they'll stay out and they'll work with them on their caseload.
Thank you.
Who delivers the outreach for Croydon?
Thames Reach.
So Thames Reach do the rapid response, and then the commissioned outreach team for Croydon.
Is Thames Reach as well, but they're commissioned by different. Yeah, so rapid response is currently Thames Reach, and it's confusing, isn't it? It's very confusing because obviously StreetLink is St Mungo's at the moment, so that you've got two pan London services commissioned, one to Thames Reach, one to Mungo's by the GLA, and we happen to have the same provider as rapid response in Thames Reach, delivering our local outreach service. Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we've got we're going to take one more question on this from Jay from Mind in Croydon, then we'll move on to the next section.
Yeah, sorry. Can you just clarify? So if somebody's not rough sleeping, but they are on the streets, maybe sofa surfing or something, what then happens to them if StreetLink do go out?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jay. So as I mentioned, StreetLink is just for people who are rough sleeping bedded down. So if someone called into StreetLink and they said that they were sofa surfing, we would explain the StreetLink service and that it is for people who are rough sleeping. We would then look at where that person is. So if they're in Croydon, we would look at all the services in that person's area. So it's dependent on that person's situation. So say if they were under 25, we would look at young people services, signpost them to those services, we'd signpost them to make a homeless application, and anything else that we could think of in that area that could help that person without them having to rough sleep. We wouldn't put through a referral if someone was sofa surfing. We would only ever put a referral through to the local outreach team if that person is bedded down on the street.
Do you want me to jump in a bit here as well? I think, thanks, Mary. If somebody is sofa surfing in Croydon and they were to make a homeless application to Croydon, they would be triaged by one of our team in our housing department, and they'd be picked up on the caseload of the prevention team, and the prevention team would work with that individual to try and stop them essentially sleeping rough. And
do you mean, sorry, do you mean the homeless application with the self-help tool? Because that, yeah, you have to put in an address, and what if they don't have a permanent address or an address they can use?
Well, I mean, they'd have to use the address of the sofa surfer. Or, I mean, what often happens is people use addresses of day centres. I mean, I'm not trying to encourage this, but I don't design the self-help tool, but I know it's not very helpful. But people have to use an address if they say they're sleeping somewhere. But anyway, I mean, rough sleepers have to use that self-help tool as well, and they use the address of all the various different locations. I know it's not very helpful. But yeah, so if somebody made that homeless application, once they've been triaged, as you know, as long as they go to our prevention team, and then if we, I mean, there's a whole different pathway to get into there about statutory homeless work, but as long as they're not actually sleeping rough, they most likely work with our prevention team, and they'd work with them to try and avoid them becoming, but they'd still be homeless, so they could be picked up by our statutory singles team as well. That's a whole separate pathway to rough sleeping. If that makes sense.
But a lot of the people, though, you may not be able to help because they are rejected asylum seekers. I think we have this, and they got no access to public funds. Does that mean that that even if they were sofa surfing, they would not be helped? Is that what that means?
So the council, I don't know if we've got too much time to get into this. So the council,
yeah, just quickly.
Have we got any time to get into this, or?
I mean, if you could just give a brief kind of 30 seconds, maybe.
So
just to...
yeah. So we still have a statutory duty to anyone that is destitute or has care needs. So if somebody's been living in Croydon is destitute or statutory, we do have an NRPF team, a no recourse to public funds team, that can work with that individual if they meet their criteria. And that they kind of come under the sort of social care act, sort of adult care assessment side stuff. In terms of people who are rough sleeping, or not rough sleeping, who are NRPF, we can, I mean, myself and Rachel, we represent the rough sleeper side. We can essentially, that they can access a number of rough sleeper services for NRPF, so rough sleepers, that we can help coordinate. But you're right in the sense that the council doesn't have a statutory duty to help any. We only have a statutory duty to help people with a local Croydon connection, and it's probably quite important that we make that really clear. Our council, our housing department, is going through a restructure at the moment, and because you probably all know very well, the council's in a lot of financial trouble, and the kind of the narrative really is that we're going to be helping people generally. There's going to be a lot less discretionary work, and our work is going to be focused on people who are from Croydon and have a housing connection to Croydon. So essentially, the messaging is that we can really generally only help people that we have a statutory duty to, but without trying to sound too confusing, we do have a very wide rough sleeper pathway, and if somebody's rough sleeping who has no recourse to public funds with no Croydon connection, there's a number of services we can help them access. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Leah. And as I mentioned, we will have some time at the end as well if there are any other questions that come up. And I'm sure that we're willing to facilitate through CVA any follow-up questions through any of the partners that we've got attending today. So I'm going to move on now to Chris Waldock from the World Drop-In Centre from the Salvation Army. Chris, I believe you've got a presentation to do as well.
I haven't got a presentation. You're just going to have to put up with the face, I'm afraid. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, thank you for the invitation, first and foremost, and thank you for putting up with the face, like I say. But I'm just going to give you a brief snippet of what we are, who we are, what we do, etc., etc. And I would say with that, we are one group of the faith sector who are supporting homelessness, which in the Borough of Croydon there are many, and we are. We've been operating for the past 15 years. I've been here 11. My predecessor set the programme up well 15 years ago. And that was with an aim to try and help homeless people, not just to give food out, but to set it up as a day centre as opposed to a homeless programme where we were just giving food out and perpetuating lifestyle. So basically, we are here. We're by no means the professionals, first and foremost. We're a Christian church. We're a charitable organisation, and we are here on a Monday. It's a very short programme. By the time I go and get the food prepared, get the food cooked, between 11 and 1. What I would say is COVID changed an awful lot, and the programme evolves on a week-to-week, certainly a month-to-month basis, but we do very much rely heavily on the professional agencies of working alongside us. And as I said, that does change, unfortunately, due to one thing or another, which I'll come on to in a moment. We are a very small team. It's myself who is the only staff member full-time, along with the church leaders. And the rest of it is, like Marie said there, it's run on volunteering, and we have a good team of 20 or so volunteers. They aren't all consistent on the same week because they're volunteers, so it's a case of working with what we've got when we've got it. But for each and every volunteer I am very grateful for them. The problem here, in all honesty, is the volunteers are aging. I've been here 11 years and I've still got the same volunteers. They are so consistent and dedicated, which is on one hand great. They come with value of experience from their career paths. And the downside to that is obviously, like I say, people get older, and we are looking to try and get some younger volunteers in. However, that isn't easy either, because obviously what we want is the younger volunteers out at work, being employed, and that's where we are. So basically what we do is our motto, in a sense, for the well, it's a hand up as opposed to a hand out. We obviously do the practical support, being the Salvation Army. We give food, a hot meal, and then we do clothing, we give toiletries, and basically we then work alongside support from outside agencies, of which we are incredibly supported by the likes of Croydon Reach, who come down and verify and speak with people who are rough sleeping. So if anybody is out there in Croydon and they are seeing people, yes, there is the links of StreetLink, which we've heard all about, which is a fantastic service, which I've used myself, and I have to say is usually responded to within the 24 hours, and I get a response update to me of what's happened. So that's great. That's great. We also have a hepatitis C van that's provided by the NHS, which the guys can come on to the van and they can have their livers scanned and check for how excessive the drinking has damaged their livers, etc. And then the people on the hepatitis C van will go on a journey with them. And that's what the well is all about, in all honesty, because we're a religious organisation. It's, excuse me, it started with the naming of the well, biblical terms. Jesus met a Jew and a Samaritan met at the well many, many moons ago, and it started with a conversation over a glass of water. That is what we are about, in the sense that's why it's called the well. And we start with a greeting at the front door by a volunteer, and then we invite them in to have a drink and a conversation. And from that, in the hope, there's those that do want support, and that's a lot easier when people want the support. A lot of them do come for social interaction. A lot of them do come for the free food, and we're not against giving that. We will do that by all means, but the ideal is we will engage with them and refer them on to the supporting agencies that we have on site during those couple of hours. Housing First, Coast, Start Team, like I said, Thames Reach, the hepatitis C van, the job centre. We haven't got the job centre at the moment, but that is a work in progress as an outreach worker to come back to us. We lost the last person, unfortunately, due to not wanting to do outreach work. So that's in the process of being looked at, as I say, and ideally we would be able to help support people get accommodation, get mental health support, get the hepatitis C NHS support, and ultimately try and get work as well. And we have a Salvation Army Employment Plus gentleman on site. We run a program on a Thursday, so we call Employment Plus, and that is also to help support people who are looking for work, CVs, interview techniques, etc., etc. He is very, very busy. His diary is quite full, I have to say, at the moment. But again, if I can get the job centre in on a Monday to work alongside us, and a Thursday, and to work alongside the Employment Plus gentleman, that would be much improved the service, because then the Employment Plus person has only so much access in terms of benefits and etc., etc., of what he can do. We also provide an address. So if somebody is street homeless and they haven't got benefits, the ideal would be that somebody could send them down to us. We'd get them engaging with the job centre. If they haven't got an address, obviously they're not entitled to the benefits. So we would write a letter as a temporary a temporary address for them to receive their post, of which then they would be able to receive the benefits. And that's a valued service that we can operate to help people get moving. The challenge is, as ever, you can take, what's the phrase, you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's in a sense with the homeless folk. If they want the help, it is here. If they don't, then we can only try and go on that journey and try and encourage and support them as much as we can, build that relationship in the hope that we can get them to move forward in their lives. The biggest challenge, I would say, for us is the no recourse to public funds, which we've just had mentioned there briefly. The challenge with that is obviously getting them referred, getting them housing, etc., etc. And I believe we might be getting somebody in the coming months, weeks rather, from St Mungo's. I was told by someone from Thames Reach on Monday that that's a possibility, and that would be great. But we do suffer from not having anybody to help those with no recourse, and also we struggle, in all honesty, with the Home Office just sending people down to us. Like I said to you at the beginning, we are a charity, we are a church. We're by far not the professionals. We want to work with the professionals because they have much more knowledge than us. We have a good ground base of information of what we can do to help somebody. And ideally, we can go on that journey with the outreach team as well. So that's in a nutshell of who we are down at the Salvation Army at the Well. If you see anybody in the street, by all means, send them down to us. We can give them something to eat. We can try and help them with clothing. It is all donated. The food is donated. The clothing is donated. So if we've got it, we will do it. And that's all I can say really about the Well. Like I said at the beginning, we are one faith group that is supporting, of which there are many. And like I said, by no stretch of the imagination are we the professionals. If anybody has any questions, any answers, feel free.
I can see that someone asked when and where the well is in the chat.
So, sorry, I missed that, sorry.
So someone just said in the chat when and where is the
okay, the well is down on Booth Road, which is if you are at the top of the high street where the Primark is, you come down, follow the tram down the hill, past McDonald's, go under the underpass, and as you come out the underpass, we are on the left-hand side. And it's a Monday 11 till 1, and it is the only time we do the program because we do different programs, different days for different people and different ages, etc., etc.
And can I be absolutely clear? You're saying that you'll provide for people who are rough sleepers, you'll provide them with an address, because for some people that could be very useful indeed. And this is the service you provide.
It is a service we provide, Simon. Yeah, I mean, I do it on the basis, I mean, they've got to understand, they've got to ask for permission to use us first, and I will write a letter to verify that and give them the letter to take to the bank or to whoever they've got to take it to for the purpose of what they need it for. It is not an address of residence, it is just a postal address. But yes, we can do that for a short period, 3 months. If they come back to me and ask for an extension, I am happy to do an extension for a further 3 months,
right,
but maximum of 6 months. Yes, correct.
That's what we need to know. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
hi.
I can hear you.
Hi, it's Jenny from Mind Info Line here. Just wondering, when we get callers who are sofa surfing, can they come to use this service on a Monday?
Yes, they can indeed. And again, if they are sofa surfing, we will go on that journey. We will have that conversation to see what we can do with helping them. And if needs be, we will refer them into the supporting agencies that we've got on site. The supporting agencies, 9 times out of 10 are very good, but like everything, staff, volunteers, hours, sickness, holidays, etc. It just depends who's here, when they're here. But ideally, yeah, that's how it would work.
Oh, great. That's very, very good to know. And that's open on a Monday 11 to 1 p.m.
Correct, yes.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
The big challenge in all of this is the numbers. And whilst COVID was on, we operated from our outside in the car park. After that, we operated back inside the building. And obviously numbers is a significant factor to what we can do, and managing, controlling behaviour, which I have to say to you guys, it is getting more and more difficult. And again, as you heard me say at the beginning, it's getting more and more difficult because of the nature of the clientele we seem to be attracting. And not only that, but I've also got an obligation to manage the premises, the staff, the volunteers, the clientele, and make sure everybody is safe, etc., etc. Yeah.
Final call out for any more questions, or we'll move on to the next one. Nope. Okay. So we're going to move on to Karen Tillman now. Karen is going to be doing a presentation around Croydon Simply Connect and the Rough Sleepers booklet.
Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen. Bear with me. And I'm going to apologise. As I said, I'm Karen from Croydon Voluntary Action. So, of course, now I can't find it. What I want to show you is, first of all, Simply Connect, which is Oh. It's not sharing.
I hate
Somebody needs to give me permission to share.
I have to take.
So basically, some of you know me already, and nice to see some familiar faces. Hi, Foster Bowler. And a lot of you are already on the Simply Connect system. Simply Connect was set up about 6 years ago now, and what we try to do is to gather all the information around services, activities, helplines, everything that we can find around different topics in one place, so that you can actually, it's a public website, so you can find the services that you need, or people who need help. The information's there. The information is public, so when you go to that website, you find, if you find Pastor Bowler, you'll find her contact details, you'll find the services that she runs, as long as she tells us and keeps us up to date, and you will be able to give the information to your clients. Right, I'm going to attempt again to share
I'll go to my doctor and say,
the screen.
I've got script instruction from them. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So
It's showing the.
Go to Ireland, or do you go by ferry, or do you swim? I've got to Gatwick and then Dublin.
No.
It's not a long flight, though, no. Long enough.
No, it's not going to work for me today.
I think maybe it's just at the top you need to click on Simply Connect.
Yeah.
It wouldn't let me.
Okay.
Maybe could you share Simply Connect? I mean, I don't know whether you can share.
Right.
And then I can talk, but I can carry on talking in the meantime and see if you're able to share it. So basically what we've done is we've gathered it all there. If you put homelessness into Simply Connect, you will bring up all the services for homeless people that are directly for homeless people. If you're working with people who are at risk of being homeless and they're looking for debt management, all of that, you can actually look for debt, people who are supporting people with debt, legal support. There's all sorts of services on there, and it's very simple to search, but you search on the need rather than the organisation. So if you're someone with homelessness, but they've got a health condition, you could search the health condition. So it's about looking at lots of different ways of searching. The other thing that we've done, and my screen is just not allowing me to move anything over, is that Kay in our team has made leaflets, which you can download from the CVA website, and we'll send this out to everybody afterwards. The front of the leaflet has a QR code, which again takes you to all of the services for homelessness. There are other leaflets, but the specific one for this for the forum. Oh, well done. I think we might be there. And the leaflet that it's made has a list of things. Aha. So if you could type in, if you could go to the activities page, activities and services, and type in homeless for me.
Yeah.
And I'd say a lot of the organisations that are in this meeting already, let us know when your service is changing. I was just listening to the Salvation Army there. I think we might need to update you. If you go on to this, so if you scroll down, you the different information that we've managed to find. If you click on page on the advice and support for home young people, it's right at the top, Ben. If you click for more details and scroll down, you'll see that information about what Kay is doing to support 16 to 21-year-olds. Okay, and you will find a phone number, an email address on almost every single, and it's, again, you don't have to log in to find those details. And I think this is the beauty of this system, is that you don't have to log in to find those details. You can find the information directly And 90% of the time, and I just noticed there that they've just moved, so the address is wrong now. That's what I'm saying, you need to keep us up to date. So we do as much research as we can, but really it's down to organisations to let us know when things change, and new services coming on board all the time. At the moment, I think there's about 1,000 services and activities on there, not all for homeless, obviously, but there is a lot of information that you can search through and is publicly available. So if you go back to the list, just scroll down, there's 63 activities. I think the difference with this website is that you look for the activity first before you look for the organisation. So because we've looked for homeless, it's all the things that we think homeless people might need. You can put in food banks and it will bring up the 30, 40 food banks and food stops in Croydon, soup kitchens. So that's how you search on Simply Connect. You search for what you're looking for rather than for the organisation. If you are looking for a particular organisation, there is a tab at the top, and if you click on that, please Ben, where it says organisations, you'll get a list of the 773 organisations that we know about in Croydon. So Salvation Army, thank you. Ben is having a look at the Salvation Army. Let's have a look and see what we've got for Salvation Army. Search. You might have had to clear the search before you put the next search in.
It's frozen for some reason. Sorry.
It's all right, don't worry. But again, if you're an organisation that has signed up with this, keep checking. You could also have your own login, so you can update your details yourself, or we're happy to update details as long as you send them through to us. And when Kate sends out the recording and the information from this website, we'll send you the email address and the link to Simply Connect. Email address so that you can send us your updates. Email us if you want to have a login yourself and update all your information yourself. You can do that. The other thing is make contact with other organisations, build those links through the organisations. Right, thanks Ben. Any questions on Simply Connect before I move on to Hayes leaflets? Nope. I think most people have seen me go through Simply Connect quite a lot at the moment. So so if you stop sharing that, then Ben.
You've got, so I've got one nephew and 3 nieces. Yeah, so I've got Ruben, who is 7.
Oops, I think everything's frozen now.
And I've got his younger sister.
It isn't an app yet. I've been working with the developers to make it an app, but it actually works really well on a smartphone. To be honest, I have it on my phone. I've just got an ordinary smartphone. I use it on the smartphone all the time. It's simple. We haven't had it with lots of bells and whistles because we want to keep it reasonably so we can afford it. So it works well on, so if you type in Simply Connect Croydon. The other thing is, if you're on the borders of Croydon, Simply Connect in other boroughs as well. So if you're an organisation like St Mungo's, who are a fantastic organisation, if you're in another borough, you might find they Simply Connect in other boroughs. I think there's about 17 of them in different boroughs across London at the moment, so it's worth keeping an eye out. The next thing we need to share is CVA's website directories, Ben, if you can, because mine's just not allowing me to share. It might be because I'm in a shop and it's the wireless in here is not very good. So
they're on their holidays. They're down Cornwall at the moment.
If you go on to directories. So this is so you can find it. So if you click on directories.
It's a little bit slow loading at the moment, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's good to show you where things are so that we can see, and it's a little bit slow, but if you scroll down, what you can see Kate has done is she's got some leaflets which I'm presuming are all downloadable.
Yeah.
And at the bottom there, the most recent one is rough sleeper support. So, and if you click on that,
Yeah, I don't think
I'll
one of them.
I'll have a look
using
at
it
that
on
later. Don't worry, I can
Yeah.
we can look at that. It's not going to allow you, but anyway, if you click on the rough sleeper support when you can't look on it at the moment. There is a QR code. So the front of the post, the front of the leaflet that Kay has designed has a QR code, which again takes you to the leaflet. So you could put it up as a poster in your area and use the QR code to get more information, which is kept up to date. Done it like that so that you don't have, you can download the whole leaflet and give it out, or you can just use the QR code to take you to the system and be updated. There's helplines, there's organisations are all in those leaflets, as well as all the other ones. So the food banks and that. Again, it's about keeping your information to us updated. Thanks, Ben. I think we'll stop sharing and see if anyone's got any questions.
Yep.
I suspect a lot of people in here have already seen me talk about this so many times now, but they're not really. Paige, I think we need to update some of activities and services. Noticed on there.
Yeah.
No questions.
Yes, I know.
There you go. You've done such a fantastic job, Karen. Everybody knows how to use it now.
So they're fed up hearing me because they've heard about me so much, heard about Simply Commit so much now. They know it. Something's going on in the shopping centre. Excuse me.
Right. So sorry, I'm just going to have to bring back the agenda up. I got kicked out when I was sharing that originally. So give me 1 second. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to move into the non-recorded part of the call. So I'm going to finish the recording now if it's actually even still going. Yeah.